Yes, welcome into Sportsbet Betting Insight today, Monday, November 7th. Pauly and Teddy, big game breakdown, Monday Night Football, Bills and the Seahawks. We also have an NBA game, Pelicans and the Warriors, and MACtion, a Tuesday night game on ESPN. We'll get to Eastern Michigan and Ball State coming up. You know, in the deep dive every Monday, we recap the weekend in college football. We start with the NFL recap. Let's start with a bad beat. The Cowboys-Browns game over. It was a shootout until late in the third quarter when the final touchdown occurred. Looked like it was going to be a breeze, and the game died. No points the rest of the way.
Yeah, scoreless fourth, and a ton of over money in that game. 46.5 at the open, bet up as high as 49.5 here in Vegas. It was 49 offshore, but plenty of over money. And both offenses moved the ball up and down. 45 at the end of three, and then Dallas went into ball control mode in the fourth. 2 long, time-consuming drives, 0 points. Now, had the game been closer, they would have kicked a field goal. Instead, they did nothing. Didn't make it on fourth down. Not many 0-0 fourth quarters. Tough beat if you had the over in this one.
Yes, and the Jets. Plenty of fours were available. You pays to shop and get the best number. They take the lead late in the fourth quarter. They're offsides on the kickoff. They have to re-kick, and Drake houses it for the Dolphins.
Oh, yeah, brutal beat if you had the Jets. I mean, this is a bad result for the house, too, as you mentioned. That game bouncing around 3.5, 4 all week long. Lots of bettors pushed and lots of bettors won. Not that many bettors lost. I mean, the Jets spent most of the day stuffing Jay Ajayi. You know, don't be fooled by that 111 rushing yards. He got a lot of that. I think nearly half of that on the final drive as the Dolphins ran out the clock. But the Jets settled for field goals. They lost a turnover battle by 2. And yeah, they were still winning the game outright until they kick it twice to Kenyon Drake. The second time was a doozy. Rough beat for New York backers.
Bad beats continue. Carolina -3. That's a vicious push. 4th and goal from the 10, 38 seconds, down 10. Fisher goes for it, and Keenum throws a touchdown to Britt. No field goal there.
Yeah, it's just bizarre. Okay, let's talk about this for a minute. But first, I have to talk about Jeff Fisher, because Jeff Fisher with extra time to repair. Remember week 1 against San Fran, where the Rams just didn't show up on offense here? Jeff Fisher, extra time to repair. What happens? The Rams don't show up on offense for the first 3.5 quarter plus. And, of course, Goff sitting on the bench. This way Fisher, in his mind at least, can keep his job, even if LA has their 5th consecutive losing season. But let's talk about the decision to go for it on 4th and goal from the 10 instead of kicking the field goal. Okay, now John Lynch, the color analyst, who moments earlier called the Panthers' pass defense hard to throw downfield against. Of course, obviously he hasn't watched any NFL this year. Hated the call. I loved it because think about for this game to go to overtime. There's 3 possibilities, or you have 2 chances, or 2 choices. You're either going to make a field goal, recover an onside, and then hit a Hail Mary, or you go for the touchdown on 4th down, recover the onside, and then try to go for the game-winning field goal or the game-tying field goal at the end. Yeah. I think it's much more likely for the second combination than the first. If you're going to have to rely on a Hail Mary from Case Keenum, I don't need to get the ball near the red zone anyway. Once they're in the red zone and in a goal-to-go situation, I thought it was the right move to go for it on 4th down, even though they didn't recover the onside.
Yes, Bill Barnwell from ESPN agrees with you, and that had Twitter abuzz with that decision. Huge from a point spread standpoint. Bad bets, plenty of them. Money poured in on the Steelers. Once it was announced that Roethlisberger was going to start, they were horrible. They did nothing till late in the game. The Ravens shut them down. Steelers lose.
Yeah, and this is another game. Don't be fooled by the final box score numbers. Pittsburgh had 66 yards of offense at halftime. That's their lowest with Roethlisberger at quarterback since 2009. Big Ben, 8 of 18 for 54 yards and 1 pick through 3 quarters. Everything he got came in garbage time. They opened 0 of 10 on 3rd downs with arguably the most potent offense in the NFL. I didn't downgrade Pittsburgh in my power ratings too significantly off of this showing. Big Ben wasn't ready. The offense wasn't in sync. They didn't practice enough together. I think they will get better off this performance. But boy, if you had Pittsburgh yesterday, it was a pretty bad bet.
Yes, all right. Time to panic in Green Bay. They were bet up to 7.5. They lose at home to the Colts. This tidbit from Peter King, Sports Illustrated. In the last 20 games, the Browns QBs have as many 300-yard passing games as Rodgers. 3. Time to hit the panic button. Look at the wins now, Teddy.
Yeah, they've beaten Jacksonville, They beat Detroit when the Lions were off to that awful start. They beat the Giants. What was that, Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football? And they beat the Bears. 3 of those 4 wins came by a touchdown or less. Every step-up game, basically, they've lost. And you start to say, well, what's wrong with Green Bay? Obviously, they can't run the football. We know that. What else, though? I mean, it's more than just that. Is this finally mutiny on McCarthy and Capers after all these years where the players are just starting to tune these guys out? Or is it a situation where, I mean, I'm so freaking sick of that nobody comes into this house without paying the price State Farm commercial with Aaron Rodgers and Clay Matthews. I mean, if I see it one more time, I'm going to puke. Hold on to your golf club, brah. But is it like too many, that type of thing, a team that's gone Hollywood isn't working hard? Or is it like too many bizarre Ted Thompson personnel decisions? Like, you know, you think Aaron Rodgers misses Josh Sitton this year? The guard, the former Pro Bowl guard who they cut
we know the
in the preseason? I mean, which of the 3 or all of the above?
Well, we've talked about it. The star quarterback hates the head coach. That's the problem. And if there's one guy, I wouldn't put it past him, one guy to sabotage his chances so they fire the head coach. He can't stand McCarthy, thinks he's a buffoon. That's your big issue. And they are wasting valuable time in the prime of his career, and they're letting it slip away big time in Green Bay. Who knows if they're going to make the playoffs, so that division is wide open. Where'd you think of all the Titans' money?
Well, I had some of it. I'll be honest. You know, I mean, the Chargers opened with that 5th touchdown drive and a ton of Titans money, plus 5.5 midweek, down to 3.5 by kickoff. You know, they had and it felt like initially the Chargers-Jaguars game back in week 2, where everything went wrong for Tennessee early. It was 16-0. It felt like it was going to be a run out right there. And remember that Chargers-Jaguars game was 35-0 after 3. Before a couple garbage time scores. But the Titans woke up, and Mariota isn't Bortles. He with Tennessee rallying back to take the lead, and then Mariota channeled his inner Blake Bortles. 2 late turnovers, a pick 6, and a fumble 6. The second TD was the absolute backbreaker. Tennessee money, no good.
All right, bad for the books. Plenty here on a Monday. Always fun to run this down. Jacksonville bet down to 7. They get in through the back door at KC.
Yeah, I mean, KC didn't do much for the cover. You know, I mean, the Jags even had a chance to win the game at the end, despite 4 more turnovers. The under was a really bad result for the house in this game, too. The Jags took all the money, and the under took all the money. That total opened 45.5, closed 43, and never sniffed an over in that one.
Yeah, this can be bad for the books and a bad beat. Plenty of professional money on the Giants. They were bet up to 3. Wentz threw 2 interceptions within the first 5 minutes of the game. The Eagles dominated the game, but they couldn't get the W. A pass in the end zone late. The Giants hang on.
Yeah, but what did we talk about on SportsBit on the weekend preview edition on Friday's show? We talked about the fact that the Giants can make big plays in the passing game downfield. And they did, and they made enough of them, although Philly was throwing downfield too. But more importantly, Philly decided to go for it on 4th down. Doug Peterson and said, we don't want to pair. There were 2 different opportunities where they could have kicked a short field goal. They went for it and got stuffed on 4th down both times. Of course, in retrospect, oh, you idiots. Oh, I didn't take the field. Take the point. No, it was, in my mind, the right decision both times, even though it didn't pan out. And this, probably the worst game of the day for the books that cater to sharp bettors. Lots of giant money.
Like the decision, hated the play calling, though. It was terrible. Now, 2 more before we get to big game breakdown. Plenty of money on the Lions. It poured in late. Blair Walsh again. My God, he missed an extra point. He had a 46-yard field goal blocked, and the Lions go right down the field to start in overtime and get the walk-off win.
Yeah, the Blair Walsh project. First, he cost him a playoff game, and then yesterday, he absolutely cost Minnesota the win with the missed extra point. Because remember how Detroit scored that last field goal, the 58-yarder at the end of regulation after Minnesota scored the touchdown to win. And let's not forget, besides the missed extra point and the missed field goal, there was a third situation where Minnesota went for it on 4th down in a spot where they would have kicked the field goal had he hit the earlier extra point. So he actually cost the Vikings 7 points. But, I mean, come on, Pauly. A ton of Lions money yesterday, and you've always hated him. But let's call this right. Matthew Stafford, he played really well. Stafford 3 of 3 on 3rd downs in overtime. He got the pass interference call on the 4th 3rd down in overtime. Maybe he's not Brady or Rodgers or Big Ben, Super Bowl winners. But if we're going to put Matt Stafford into a quarterback echelon right now, we probably put him in the second tier. We probably put him with Andy Dalton and Joe Flacco and those kind of guys. What do you say?
He's average. He's average. Mike Zimmer, I thought some horrible decisions in that one. They could have, remember there was a personal foul roughing the kicker on that extra point by the Vikings. So they didn't try to pooch it. They just kicked it into the end zone. That was horrible. And how about the dink and dunk? Bradford was 31 of 40 in that game. I think Diggs had like 13 catches for 90 yards. It was ridiculous. Everything's a short pass. And the worst result of the year for the house, got to be professional and public money on the Saints. The 49ers defense is god-awful.
Yeah, really one of the worst games of the year for the house. And this is, of course, San Fran coming back from the bye. But when the sharps and squares line up on the same side, that being New Orleans, and that game gets bet up from -3 to -5, and it's on every parlay card, it's on every teaser card, and then San Fran, I think didn't they lead 3-0? And then it was all New Orleans the rest of the way. How about this? The Saints all of a sudden back in the playoff picture. San Fran now has lost every game since that Monday Night Football affair. They haven't covered a whole lot of point spreads in defeat. Now Chip Kelly fending off rumors that he's going to go back to Oregon at the end of the year.
Well, those are going to heat up because apparently a Bleacher Report says Phil Knight wants to spend $10 million a year. He wants to win a championship before he dies. I think he's 78 years old. That's something to follow. Big game breakdown up next. We'll get to college and the deep dive on SportsBit. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBit, Pauly and Teddy. Time for Big Game Breakdown. As always, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Monday Night Football. The Bills hit the road to take on the Seahawks. Seattle 7-44 the total. Night game. Place more alcohol. Plenty of time to tailgate. Probably the best home field advantage in all of sports. Pete Carroll, 24-9 ATS in all whole games with the line in single digits, Teddy. A lot to talk about here. Let's start with the Seattle defense.
Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks defense, they've been without Michael Bennett. They've been without Kim Chancellor. A couple of games in a row without Chancellor. So adjustments have been made. But even without those two Pro Bowl caliber players, Seattle's defense the last 2 weeks has been unbelievable. I mean, really unbelievable. On the field for 45 minutes against Arizona. And then the Saints played ball control last week. And even with all of that, Seahawks allowed 2 touchdowns. And one of them came after turnover in their own territory. So it's been an impressive defensive run for the Seahawks. So we have to wonder if that defense a little bit gassed after playing those consecutive grueling games.
Yeah, that's Cam. Bills, can they hang? They can make the stops, but what can they do with the defense against the Seattle offense? The running back O-line, one of the league's worst. Yards per rush, Seattle's 30th. And it's tougher for Wilson. He's not even close to 100%. He hasn't been able to run. Carroll's quote on Wilson, it feels like he's limited. He would tell you it's cumbersome. It's a cumbersome feeling. He still has ankles tape. But just like wearing a knee brace, you feel like you're carrying a lot of extra weight. It's not that heavy, but it feels cumbersome, and there's a sense of that. There are some elements that are different in the run game this year than last year at this time, and part of it is we have not allowed Russell to take off and run very much. He's been very, very effective for us over the years, so we had to take care of him. That's part of the reason we haven't been doing that, end quote, and it goes on. But that's an excellent point because he would want to run. He can't run, but if he doesn't, he gets hurt. Their season's over.
Well, I mean, right now, the way this offense is playing, their season's over anyway. The defense has played out of their minds the last 2 weeks, and Seattle wasn't able to win either game, which tells us that this offense is clearly problematic right now. They can't run the football. The offensive line can't protect Wilson, and Wilson can't scramble this year. You know, he's all banged up. Cumbersome is a word that Pete Carroll used about 6 times in that quote. Those are problems for Seattle. This is a team that when the offense is working, man, it's a beautiful thing to watch. They have a power running game. Wilson out to the side. He has a lot of, run-pass options. And then the downfield passing threats. But when 2 of those 3 aspects aren't working, it's a problem. And all they have right now is a downfield passing game behind an offensive line that hasn't been able to protect Wilson. But let's not forget, for all the success that the Bills have had this year, this 500 season that Buffalo's in the midst of, they've got padded stats too. They closing touchdowns in each of the last 2 games, with Tyrod Taylor making plays during garbage time. They had 66 yards against the Patriots, scored with 14 seconds left. 75-yard drive versus the Dolphins, scored with 30 seconds left. What does that tell us? Tells us two things. One, that Buffalo's a danger to come through the back door here. And two, is that this is a team that will fight for the full 60 minutes. They've done it each of the last 2 weeks in losing efforts, although it is worth noting both of those were divisional games. This one, a long, long way away from home in a very hostile environment.
You surprised at the total? It seems high to me.
It seems a little bit high to me, no question. The only way I would look at this is to take a look at the dog and or the under.
Yeah, and I like no score first 6.5 minutes of the game. Seattle always starts out slow. They like, and you probably get a couple punts early as well. Game number 2, liveoddsportsbookreview.com. NBA now. Pelicans take on the Warriors. Look at this, 17. Golden State at home, 224.5 the total. It took 2 months last year, December 30th, for the Warriors to lose 2 games. This season it happened in a little over a week. Real problems to address. We've talked about it. The issues from 3, especially Curry and Thompson, 2 for 20 in Staples. They haven't been able to shoot well against the Lakers the last few years, at least in that building. But now let's focus on the real issue. You look at defense and rebounding percentage. 2015, the defense was number 1. 2016, number 4. 2017, 18th, Teddy, and a money quote here about Kerr and the real issues.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a Warriors team that we talked about coming into the season. They got nothing to prove in the regular season. So far, they played like it. You know, when you look at the rebound, you quoted the defensive numbers, they're number 22 in rebounding margin right now, rebounding percentage, which is percentage of available rebounds, slightly different from rebounding margin. And I think it's a better stat because it doesn't reward teams based on high possession games. But you talked about that Kerr quote. Here it is. This is after the Lakers loss. Quote, there's going to be nights where you don't have quite the energy or the emotion that you had the previous night. You have to be able to rely on execution, defense, and toughness. We had none of that. Right now, this Golden State team, they're not playing defense. They're not that tough, Pauly.
They met 3 times last year, blowout city, and Golden State scored a ton of points on them. A couple things on the Pelicans. They don't have a win. They're 0-6 straight up. I mean, it's disheartening because they have one of the best players in the NBA who continues to put up monster numbers, but they lose every game.
Well, yeah, they've only lost 1 time in double figures. They've lost twice in overtime. They're missing Drew Holiday and Tyreek Evans. You know, they're starting backcourt. So you have Anthony Davis and a bunch of let's call them fringe or role NBA players. But Alvin Gentry's quote, it's disheartening because we play hard and we get to a certain point, but it just doesn't matter. You got to play until the final buzzer. We just didn't do it. This is coming off the overtime loss to Phoenix the other night. The Warriors did go 3-0 against New Orleans last year. They won by 18, 16, and 14. They scored 125, 134, and 111 in those games. 3-0 ATS, 2-1 to the over, but 2 teams just met a couple of weeks ago. Pelicans plus 12 at home. Golden State 122, New Orleans 114. New Orleans got the money.
Back to this game in the play of the day. One more, Tuesday MACtion on ESPN, ESPN2, I believe. Eastern Michigan and Ball State. Ball State 1.5. No total yet. Eastern Michigan 1 win away from becoming bowl eligible. Last time that happened, 1987. Is the pressure going to get to them?
It might. You know, Chris Creighton, the Eastern Michigan head coach, quote, our goal is to go to a bowl and to win a bowl game. I realize there is a difference between bowl eligibility and a bowl guarantee, but 6 wins is a pretty magical number in college football right now. So our guys are aware of that. We talked about it a lot before the season, and we are just focused on going 1-0 to get there. I told them that it would be more significant than whoever wins the national championship. That's how we feel about it. Look, Ypsilanti, Michigan is 10 miles down the road from Ann Arbor. The Eastern Michigan program is way overshadowed, obviously, by the University of Michigan program. In the pecking order in the state of Michigan, it goes, Michigan and Michigan State, and then you have Western and Central, and then you have Eastern all the way down at the bottom. Their football stadium's a dump. The program's been garbage. They haven't been to a bowl. Everyone gets to a bowl some season. They haven't been to a bowl since 1987, Pauly. And I wonder if this level of pressure, you say, all right, step up for this. Now they got pressure. This team has never played with pressure. Is that an issue?
Absolutely. No doubt about it. You see it all the time. Just because you're supposed to win doesn't mean you're expected to win, and you vomit on yourself. So that's a legitimate point there. Last week, we had a losing ticket with Ball State. Ball State, Western Michigan score was deceiving. First downs, 26-25, Western Michigan. Total offense, 553 to 497. Whoops, turnovers, 3-0 in favor of the Broncos. Ball State kept turning it over, and it wasn't Riley Neal at quarterback. The ankle gave him problems. They decided to sit him. He's supposed to play Tuesday, and if they don't turn it over, they will move the ball.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Jack Mielis came in instead of Riley Neal at quarterback, and that cost us. Unfortunately, Neal was in uniform. There was no announcement. All of a sudden, he just wasn't in the game. Mike New thought his limited mobility would be a risk. But and, of course, one of Mielis' interceptions was a pick six. But when it comes to first down, when it comes to yardage, Ball State moved the ball up and down the field. Neal should be back on the field. Can the offense eliminate those mistakes? And for Eastern Michigan, remember, after this week, they get Central Michigan and Northern Illinois. They both come at home, but both those teams are better than Ball State. They'll be up against it if they don't notch victory number 6 on Tuesday night.
Up next, the deep dive. Recap a wild weekend in college football and the play of the day. Let's make it 3 in a row on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Do your research before you bet. Check out our ratings guide to see which books have the best ratings and sign-up bonuses. Open up several accounts. Shop for lines at SBRodds.com. Always be ahead of the game.
Wrapping it up on SportsBit, Pauly and Teddy, deep dive. Recap the college football weekend, bad beats, the Clemson-Syracuse total. Oh, you could also say a bad bet because it was bet up from 61 to 68.5. Watson got hurt, 54-0 final, and Sweeney's still throwing the ball late in the game. Come on.
Yeah, but you can't say it was a bad bet. Both starting quarterbacks were out of the game by the middle of the second quarter with injuries. Watson got hurt, and he went really down hard on his shoulder. He's very questionable this week. Be aware of his status before you get involved. And Dungy got hurt. So both coaches shut the game down completely. The only touchdown in the fourth quarter came on a pick six. Lots of over money. All those tickets getting ripped up in the sports books here in Las Vegas. That was a tough beat. That wasn't a wrong side. It just didn't work out.
There wasn't. Weird weekend. Not a lot of bad beats. We couldn't come up with a lot. Scanning all the action. Bad bets.
Tweet us. Just send us a tweet because I'm sure somebody took a brutal beat that I just didn't think of or you didn't think of, Pauly.
Yes.
Yeah. Please.
Tweet at us or comment in the video section. We'll get Boise State didn't look interested against San Jose State. They were laying 31.5. They won by 14 at home, and San Jose State stinks.
Yeah, I mean, the Broncos really don't have much to play for at all between now and the Mountain West Conference title game.
Plenty of Notre Dame money. I don't understand it. Bet up to 7.5. They lose in Jacksonville, the Navy. They had 6 possessions the whole game.
That's insane. I mean, that is insane. That Irish defense struggled to get off the field so much. 6 times?
Yep.
Nobody has 6 possessions in a game. In modern college football, you have 18 in a game. 6 for Notre Dame. Bad bet for all those who put their money on the Irish.
Bad bet. Louisville under. Bet down from 55.5 to 51.5. Louisville got there themselves. Petrino was pissed off at the committee.
Yeah, as well he should have been. And it's funny because Petrino's never been a guy who's shy about running up scores, and now he's bitching about it. But I agree with him. The fact that Louisville and other teams have to run up scores in order to get the committee's attention is ludicrous. It's bad for sportsmanship. It's bad for college football. And that's the nature of the game that we have in 2016.
I didn't understand this at all. They were betting Utah State big on the road against Wyoming. They thought it'd be a letdown spot. Second quarter was 35-7 Cowboys.
Yeah, it was not a letdown spot. Did you see they were betting Michigan State again, too?
Oh, yeah.
Folks are still believing that Sparty's going to turn things around. Michigan State, minus 7.5 up to minus 10. Yeah, they lose outright against Illinois.
Bad for the books. Miami bet from plus 3.5 to minus 1. They destroy Central Michigan and North Carolina, and over again, Trubisky could go top 10 in the NFL draft.
Yeah, Miami now 4-0 straight up and against the spread with Gus Ragland at quarterback. We don't do a lot talking about these MAC schools. Here's an opportunity to find a MAC team that is surging right now. Miami Redhawks and North Carolina. And I give you credit, Pauly. I rip you on some of the stuff. I got to give you credit. At the beginning of the season, you said Mitch Trubisky is the quarterback to watch in college football. You've been 100% correct. He's played himself, he wasn't being talked about as a first rounder coming into the game.
Oh, God, no.
Now he's played himself in the first round. He might have played himself into the top QB taken. So I give you credit, Paul. You turned me on to Trubisky, and he's made me money this year. Hopefully, he's made some of the folks out there in viewerland some money as well.
How about the SEC? How about Texas A&M with the no-show? Although some people thought that was going to happen. Mississippi State, money poured in on Mississippi State late. They get the outright win. Trevor Knight goes out with an injury. Get A&M out of there. They're not playing for anything now. No more top 10 after that performance.
Yeah, and I mean, look, bad results for the house. There were no shortage of them on Saturday, and this was a pretty bad one. The Bulldogs scored in their first possession. They never trailed. Dan Mullen off a bye week, man. He's coached up Nick Fitzgerald, man. He may not be Dak Prescott just yet, but I like the looks of this young QB for the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
What did you think of the Alabama-LSU game?
I thought it was an entertaining football game at nothing.
Okay.
I thought it was a good game. I thought it was a tough beat if you had LSU plus. But I don't know. I mean, it was a good. It was again exactly what we talked about on Sportsbet last week when we previewed the game. We said it was going to be physical. We said it was going to be hard hitting. We said that LSU's running game isn't going to be able to work against Alabama. We said that Alabama should be able to have some success throwing the football. They didn't have much, but they found enough at the end to make it work.
The quarterback play has been and will continue to be atrocious in the SEC. That was horrific offensive execution. All right.
That's good defenses.
Here we go. Yeah, guy can't complete a 5-yard pass. It's the great defense. All right. Money time. Play of the day. Let's make it 3 in a row. Back to the NBA. Where are we going? Mr. Covers.
Let's go out to Golden State. Take a look at game number 7-13. The New Orleans Pelicans plus the 17. And again, I don't need an upset. I don't need anything close to an upset. All I need is a game where the Pelicans aren't completely run off the court, and that's not Golden State right now. Anthony Davis may not have a lot of help, but when you're averaging 30 points, 11.7 rebounds, and 3.2 blocks per game, you can keep a team from getting blown out all by yourself. Give me New Orleans plus the 17. That's a play of the day.
Very good. Fun show. Back tomorrow. Jimmy Vaccaro to run everything down. Fingers crossed. Election. Here we go, Teddy. Sneaking some betting odds on that. Who's going to be the next president? And big game breakdown, recap Monday Night Football and the association. We'll talk to you then on SportsBet. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.